the books I'm in the middle of reading, and there are like more. So yeah, I have maybe not a problem, but something. I woke up late today, like 10:30. It's Sunday, but I plan to catch up on my reading before I have to go to do some chores. And I felt so discouraged that I started looking like what can I read, and I realized that I'm in the middle of so many books. And there are like more that I'm reading online. I wanted to share basically. If you'll see any sounds, it's because my cat is very demanding of attention when I talk to someone who's not her. And anyway, I'm actually the person that prefers to read like one book in one sitting, even sometimes not sleeping or whatever, or in few sittings, but like focus on one book. However, there are books that are either emotionally way intense, or they sometimes occasionally get to the point where they get a bit boring, and if I focus only one book, I then like just not read for a while. And I started like switching between books based on the mood, and that's why we have this. And also some books are very engaging. I can read them, as I said, in one sitting, and others I still want to read them, so it's not a DNF, but I'm like waiting for the right mood. So let's go. I will follow my story graph, and some of them are online. And first is actually podcast. Welcome to Night Vale Year 6. And I count it as a book because there is a published book. There are scripts that publish. I don't have them in right now. And it's like a story. It's we're listening basically to a radio show set in this city, Night Vale, and it's a very weird city. There are like surveillance, there are like all conspiracies basically are true, like everything is super weird, and characters and like citizens do not really aware or pay attention that anything is weird. So very interesting, and it is a story, so you can follow their character arcs, etc. The next one I also read online, and I read actually for book club, is Iliad. This one I was afraid that it will be very hard to read. It's not, it's very easy to follow. However, it's extremely sad. Like the whole idea of the story is that reader is aware of tragic end, characters themselves aware of tragic end because of prophecies and so on, and no one is able to change anything. Plus there is like, it's a war, people are dying, and also there is like some casual misogyny to women common to the time, so it's a bit harder to read. I definitely will read it within this month because it's for a book club, but I'm reading in chunks. Next one actually probably will be finished the first among this all is Apothecary Diaries Volume 6. These are so easy to read. I read third of it like while I was drinking tea in tea shop, and yeah, I might even finish it today if I will have time, because there are some I need to like read before that. Then there is Dracula, Mystery Story and Dracula Guest, that's a full name. This one I will be reading through the year till the November and so on. I'm following basically Dracula daily, so stuff here is from journals, etc., so we know dates, and we start at May 3rd, and then like, and I want to read it and I want to annotate it, which makes it longer, and this is one of the books I need to catch up on, because today is May 17th and I'm currently stuck on May 8th. So it's not that many pages, but because I'm annotating and transferring stuff and I'm reading very attentively, it's a bit more involved process for me. Next one, again online, again for book club, after the disabled god of war become a concubine. This is danmei. This is actually not my favorite. I'm glad I didn't bought a physical version of it, but I'm also glad I am reading it. Basically, the history professor talks to a student who wrote a thesis on this, like that these two guys in past that there is no information on, like very little information on, were lovers, and he's like, where are your sources? And he's like, how do you know it's not true? It's just not how history works, and history thesis works at all. But then the professor transmigrated into the body of the guy that is later killed, and there are like politics. I don't know, I read 35% of first book, maybe it will catch up, but I was expecting some literal gods, and I think this bumped me a bit. Next one, the best, is Count of Monte Cristo. I started reading it 2 years ago. Then there was a bit slow moment when too many new characters showed up and I stopped reading. Now I'm reading again, and I actually so behind. I was supposed to read like 20 pages every day, and this is what I need to catch up on. And yeah, I actually found a book club that is reading this by the end of June, so we have 2 months to read it, and now it's like middle of May, so this is also was what I wanted to catch up, but also it's like a lot of pages. I actually forgot about one book. This is Monk by Matthew Lewis, and the reason I picked up is it was, actually don't remember what it was said. It's a sensational story of temptation and depravity, a masterpiece of gothic fiction and first horror novel in English literature. So I already started annotating. But actually, yes, I'm still reading introduction, and I wanted to read it in autumn, in that like very time where, yeah, introduction is very long but interesting. And basically there is a monk, yes, respected monk, is overwhelmed with desire for a young girl, and after swiftly abandoning his monastic vows, he begins a terrible descent into immorality and violence. His appalling fall from grace embraces blasphemy, black magic, torture, rape, and murder, and places his very soul in jeopardy. Like, this sounds so gothic, but yeah, I for sure want to read it in autumn. Next one is Case File Compendium Volume 1. Again, it's a danmei, and I actually wasn't really interested, but what I heard is absurd. It feels like Riverdale Season 4. It's very toxic, it's very unscientific. So it got me interested that it's so absurd, because sometimes I like reading absurd books, because you can be more free in like enjoying it. So far it's like 2 very toxic guys. There is like both guys will fall in love in each other in like volume 8 or whatever. However, they're all very homophobic. What I heard is they already will start like sleeping together, but they are still homophobic. So usually I would be not interested, but here I'm just like, if it's so absurd, I will read it. Another danmei is Riverbay Road Men's Dormitory, and basically the guy who's very famous, he's actually very rich, decides he wants to be a writer, but he doesn't have a lot of like real life experiences, and he's told that his writing is shit because of that. So he finds I don't remember how many guys to rent a room in his place without telling him he's rich, to basically look at them and find some inspiration for his stories. And I read we introduced to most of the guys, I think, except one. However, they present themselves as successful people and so on, but we already know that they are all like in very deep, like don't have money or some other issues, and I think that's a bit dumber, because I understand that we will have to see these people struggle trying to show a front, but actually they so I'm expecting some suffering and some awkwardness. That's why I'm a bit on a slum, but actually it seems like fun read. I think my another book club is reading it for next month, so I will join them in that. Next one is Lords of Mysteries Volume 4 by Cuttlefish That Loves Diving. This is a very huge novel, Chinese novel. Like Volume 4 is 1,287 pages, and there are 6, 9, 8, something like that, a lot of volumes. And there is no romance there. It's basically the guys transmigrated into this world. It's a bit like Victorian times. And however, in this world there is an option to get this like elixir and get some powers, and you can like climb layers, levels, and become like super strong, basically a god. It's not like levels, it's very, very hard. Actually, like, if you decide to take this path, you're very likely to die or go insane. However, he's a bit lucky, he in some ways, but also he is smart in some ways. So he progresses, and there are other people who progresses, and he changes his identity a few times. So it's actually very interesting to read. But I think the part I'm reading currently is a bit boring compared to other stuff, because he changes identity and now he's just looking for a house, looking for like household people, and not much else going on. So that's why I think I started it in February of last year, and I read 5% of it. So it's not very active reading. I do want to return and read it fully, because it's actually very interesting, very engaging story. It's just very long, and it's not a boring point. This one, I don't know if it counts, but there is something wrong with the Chief, Volume 2. I read a first volume, and I'm like, I don't want to buy this book, but I'm kind of interested in what will go on. So I started reading Volume 2. I read like few pages, and I haven't even tracked how many pages I read. So, but it's on I'm reading it. Another podcast is Dream Boy. I mostly tracked it because it's not on any of official podcast sites, or at least not on a site I was reading, and I didn't want to lose it. And I actually haven't listened to any of the episodes, but I listened to a trailer of so I don't know. Probably it doesn't count also. But it's in the list, so I mention it. Next one is Haunted Bookstore. So basically, in Japanese mythology, there is a world where all the like supernatural lives, and in this world, the girl, she's human, but she got there when she was a child, and she was raised there, and they find a guy who is exorcist, but no longer, and he's looking for something that doesn't matter. And there are like 9 volumes, they're not that thick. However, I bought 6 volumes on some crazy sale, and it's so boring. Like, no, it's interesting. I think it would make a cute anime, and maybe if it will pick up pace and there will be a bit more plot. But first volume was a bit too soft. Not, I don't know. It's not like boring, but it's a bit boring. So I started volume 2, however, I had so many other books that are more interesting and that I had like deadline, I put deadline for it, that is on hold. The Husky and his white cat Shizun, actually, it's volume 10, and basically the story ends in this volume here. That's what I read, but there are extras, and then there is a whole other book of extras. So at that point, because I was reading 2 or 3 volumes at the time because I wanted to know how story ends, I felt like I'm okay, I read the story. And because these are extra, I think I'm waiting for a moment when I in a book slam or like reading slam, and then I will read just a few pages, and I read a book. Next is Babel. I actually have it somewhere. Yes. I heard so much good, and I like premise. However, it's how to say it? It's a bit sad because it's like this colonialistic world that is based on our, but slightly different with magic, and so far nothing that interesting happened. I read it half in paper format, half online, digital. I think I lost some wind reading it, and maybe I will pick it up at some point, but most likely in autumn when I have those dark academia vibes. Next one, I actually have it. Let me find this book. So, this is Peanuts from 1950 to 1952. I saw some strips and things like fun and cute online. So I'm like, I want to read it. It's comics, it should be easy. And I, for some reason, thought that I need to read it in chronological order. So if you're familiar with comics, here it's like very early style. So it's not maybe the most recognizable style. And I decided to buy it in Italian because I'm learning Italian. I'm like, I need to read Italian more. And here it's like very short. It should be easy, but it's not easy for a few reasons. First of all, there is a lot of slang, like not like official language. And also because it's a humor, when you read it in a language you're not most familiar with, you're like, what? Wait, I didn't got it. So, yeah, I will definitely continue reading this, but it's just, I read, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, like I read quite a few of those, and then I just forgot. On the same topic, this is even older. When I was in Italy, I found manga in Italian, and I have actually a second, but this, I Am a Cat, this is pretty famous story, and it's told from the point of a cat, and I read few first pages while translating words I didn't know, but again, because I'm kind of reading it to learn, so if I kind of guess the meaning, I still translate the word because I'm like, well, how will I learn? Or because of that, reading is longer and feels a bit like a chore. Another book is, I don't have it, but there was a moment when I was like, I really love Ukrainian history and art, and I want to learn more about that. And I went to the store and I bought the biggest book I could find. It's called, let me translate, Ukrainian Artistic Avant-garde, Manifests, Publicistics, Talks, Remembrance and Letters. And it's 640 pages. So first of all, it's not an easy book because it's not a story, it's like combination of stuff, and second of all, it's this thick, and also it's back in Kiev, but yeah, I felt very in love with Ukrainian art and history, and I was like, big books are nothing for me, and I still love Ukrainian art and history, but maybe I should have chosen a better book for that. Next one is also Ukrainian book, History of Architectural Styles, Big and Not So Big, and it's written by a historian and arts historian, and she's talking about architectural styles from the point of view, not just defining them, but what led to them appearing and disappearing, and also in a bit in context of Ukraine in parts. And I thought I will read it fully on a train ride. I always think I will read a lot on a train ride, but also I think I got a bit motion sickness. Not that I feel bad, but that it's very hard for me to focus on it. And yeah, I read like few chapters of this. I'm currently, there are so many beautiful illustrations here. Yeah, what I liked is that there are examples of architecture in Ukraine, and I'm currently on a chapter, Imperialistic Spadok Inheritance, Roman style and Byzantine sequel. So fun, but a bit from the cover I thought it will be very easy read, and it is easy read, but still, for example, at some point she explains different parts of a column in like Greek and Roman style, and I'm not sure how much I need to know. Next, Until I Meet My Husband, I think it's by the guy who was one of the first religiously recognized same-sex marriage in Japan. And this is basically a collection of short stories. It follows his life, and first few are from his school years For example, he didn't know he was gay, but he still was ostracized, he was made fun of, and the way like teachers handled it wasn't really good. And I think in part is that it's more like short stories format I don't fully get. And second of all, because we start so sad, it's waiting for me. There is also manga of this, and I should have probably bought manga, it would be easier to read. But yeah, I'm still interested to read, but it's a bit sad at the beginning. Okay, next is Gender Fluid. Again, I forgot it. It's somewhere. I saw it somewhere. Basically, this is non-fiction book. Yeah, it's just on the brown shelf. I have a problem. And it's basically, the spoiler alert, yes, but basically it talks how gender was perceived in different ages, in different places, and leading you to conclusions that it actually is fluid. And it talks like both in connection to like sex, that yes, sex is a defined XY, also there are many more combinations. Things like neurosexism, a new term, transgender. I'm trying to find some interesting parts, and as always, when you try to find something, whether or not the biological makeup of a woman and a man impacted on gendered behaviors and social roles, it was imperfectly understood for great proportions of human history. Like, stuff like that. There are a lot of images, history references, and so on. So I kind of know a lot about this because this is a topic that interests me greatly. However, here it's with more specific references and so on. And it is a very fun book to read. I haven't, like, there is no reasons I'm not reading it. This book, at least I know why I'm not reading it, because it's huge. The Makioka Sisters, and it's about 4 sisters before Second World War, and it's in Japan, and it's still in the time where those cultural traditions of households were present, but at the same time we already have a modernity. So very interesting, like culturally and like visually time. And also I think it reads a bit, at least from first chapter I actually read, as drama, because there are 4 sisters, one is not married and everyone is trying to set her up with someone boring or something. The others are married, but they have also some issues in their marriages. So another is Dante Inferno, which I'm listening, I think I haven't read that much of it, because before Catabasis by Kwan was coming up, there was like required reading, and I was like, there is no required reading, but I was like, I don't think I read Dante's Inferno. I read some like short parts, but not fully, and I wanted to read it, and you need to listen to it so attentively because of the way language is a bit archaistic. So I do want to read it at some point, because this is very influential story, and it's actually like the most famous fanfiction. Guys, like what if you took Bible, but I was the main character, and all the my favorite poets would make me compliments. So it's cultural thing, it needs to be read. Next is Also Lovers in the Night. Again, I talked about in the video about books that are on my I bought so long ago and still haven't read. I read again like chapter 2, and why I got interested in it, because it's about a woman. She lives alone, unable to form meaningful relationships. She's in her 30s, and yeah, she's tired, feels spiritless. So it felt like a bit relevant, because at sometimes it was a bit hard. I moved to a new country and I didn't have any close friendships. The closest friendships I built, which I didn't have that many, were left in Ukraine. So I was like, well, it felt relatable. But also, Japanese style of writing is so calm, and it's a good thing, but it also means that I'm not that I need to know what's on the next page. So I will read it at some point. Then there is a book called Apothecary Diaries. It's Apothecary by Yuri Venichuk. It's I never bought this book. Basically, I was in a bookstore and I was decided whether I want to buy it. And I was like, okay, I will read a chapter or two to understand. Because, yes, the premise is interesting. It's historical, and the guy, like, studies in Venice as an apothecary or something. And then his friend, like, I got inheritance in Lviv, in Ukraine, of apothecary, like... maybe he was a doctor, come with me and we will work together. And he's like, great. But when they go, his friend is killed and he takes his papers and says that he is him. So he inherits apothecary. However, apothecary of the time is a bit less scientific, let's say. And there is also witch with devil. So all the parts I really liked, and I actually wish I bought it. But basically, I read few chapters, and I was like, well, I'm still not sure I want to buy it. And then I went to a bookstore again. I'm going to bookstores a lot, and I'm like, well, I can continue reading. And at that point, I was like, well, maybe I can just read it by going to bookshops and just reading the bookshop. So I read 20% of the book. It's actually really interesting, but I have not bought it, and I'm not in Ukraine currently. Another book I pre-ordered. It was expensive. It's BTS, Beyond the Story, 10-year record of BTS, because I was so excited to read it. I'm interested in BTS, but unlike many of the fans, I don't know like all the songs, I don't know like all the facts, I haven't watched all the materials, and I was like, well, it's too much of material, I will just read a book. And to be honest, it's I started reading, it's kinda interesting, but also it feels way too commercial, because it talks about the struggle and so on. Well, it's the whole issue I have with K-pop in general, because all the groups are basically owned by corporation. So they have very little creative freedom, and but some freedom they do have, and so how much of what we enjoy is actually a product engineered by a company, and how much of this is an artist. BTS have much more freedom, however still I don't know, I started reading, I was really excited, and then I lost a bit of energy, and then by the time they already come back and there is already so much more content. I'm not sure, I'm not in any rush to get rid of it or to read it, but I think if I will not get any like energy to read it, I will just sell it or something, because it's like good book in terms of like if you want to know about them. There is a lot of material, there is a lot of interviews and influences and so on, but also I don't believe it actually gives that much insight into them as people, and that's usually what you want when you buy a like biography. So 3 other books for book club. How to Read a Book by Monica Wood. I actually know nothing about this. However, I'm in a new city, in a new country, and I'm trying to make friends. And they have a physical book club. They meet in real life, and I really need to meet more people. So I know nothing about this book yet. I'm reading it purely to meet people. Also, it's about books, so let's actually read what it's about. It's fiction, it's contemporary. Human and Serene encounter each other one morning in a bookstore to buy a novel. She was reading a prison book club before her release, hurried to choose the next title for The Woman Who Remain, and Frank to dispatch his duties as a store handyman. Their lives begin to intersect in a beautiful, transformative way. Hopeful story. It seems to be about people and about books. I like to read about books. I don't that much enjoy reading about people unless it's something like detective or thriller. So we will see. In Stomach of a Predator, I'm part of book club, of detective book club. It's a Ukrainian book club, and I missed two last or even three books we read, and again, I don't feel so excited because, to be honest, the cover does nothing for me, but I really want to discuss because our discussions usually are really fun and it's really interesting to hear other people's opinion. And the last one, I already DNF'd it once, but right now there is a book club. I'm part of so many book clubs. 100 Years of Solitude, so I will give it a second chance because I heard so many good things and I like magical realism, although it was really hard for me to read it when I read it, so I will try audio format this time and hopefully it will work out better. I definitely procrastinating from reading books, sometimes by reading other books, sometimes about filming videos about all books I am reading.